Thank you for joining us. My name is Patrick Stewart. I'm the CEO of the Library Foundation SD here in San Diego. Thank you for joining us for an inaugural conversation for a series that we are calling Overdue. These are, to use a library pun, conversations long overdue with civic leaders, change makers, people who are working really hard to affect really positive change here in San Diego. I'm excited to be here in the Rare Books Room on the 9th floor of our Central Library downtown, hosting our inaugural conversation with our friend Betsy Brennan, President and CEO of the Downtown San Diego Partnership. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me in this beautiful space today.
Yeah, this is lovely. I will make a quick pitch. If you haven't been to the Rare Books Room or the special collections here, please do plan on coming down and joining us. It is a jewel in the library. Betsy, why don't we get started? Tell us a little bit about yourself, Downtown Partnership, and your role in what we do down here.
Sure. So I am a native of upstate New York, and I moved to San Diego 22 years ago to go to law school at the University of San Diego. Very happy to be in San Diego, and a mother of 2 beautiful teenagers and a stepmom of 3 beautiful teenagers. So our house is full of activity. The Downtown San Diego Partnership is a nonprofit with a mission of economic development and cultural vitality of downtown San Diego. We've been called the Downtown San Diego Partnership since 1993, and we do all things downtown. And we've been around since 1927 doing all of those things downtown. So we do things from enhanced maintenance and safety and activation through our Clean and Safe program that runs 24/7, 365 days a year, to other things like economic development and membership events and activities and everything in between. So we're so thrilled that the Downtown Library is here in downtown San Diego, serving our 39,000 residents that are down here.
Wow.
And everybody else that works and visits in downtown San Diego.
That's great. I didn't realize there were 39,000 people that live down here.
There are 39,000 people that live down here, and there are 5,000 people that live within 2 blocks of the library.
Wow, that's fantastic. We need to see more of them at the library. That would be wonderful. So for those of us that, before I move on any further, you were saying that you have a lot of library in your history, your family history.
That's true. So in high school, I was a student page. So I worked at my local library, the Fairport Public Library in Rochester, New York. And I actually was selected as the student page of the year, my senior year. And they gave me a $4,000 scholarship to go to college. And I used that scholarship to go to college. So I can say that the public library system was responsible for me going to college. So I have a very affinity. My aunt worked at that same public library. 2 of my cousins worked at that library. And then when I went to college, I also worked at the library at my University of Richmond. And then at University of San Diego Law School, I worked at that law library. My sister is a medical librarian on the faculty at the Medical University of South Carolina. She is a proud graduate of the UCLA Information Technology master's program, and she is a proud librarian. So
that's
libraries
great.
Run in my family, and I couldn't be more proud to be a major supporter of libraries.
Awesome. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Well, we have 36 branches, including the Central Library. But we'll focus this conversation mostly on what we do and what's happening downtown. As you can well imagine, for many library patrons and library supporters for Library Foundation, they sort of have a go, no-go relationship with downtown. We hear from some patrons, absolutely, I will do everything I can to come downtown. I love going to the library and eating and going to shows and so on and so forth. We also hear from patrons and supporters that, for a variety of issues, they will not come downtown, and they can be pretty subjective as to why. Do you hear this from other businesses? How are other businesses navigating this? And I do want to talk a little bit some of those businesses now.
as we know, any urban environment encourage people to come to downtown San Diego, but we do always strive to have it cleaner, safer, more vibrant, and that's what our teams do at the Clean and Safe program. So we do maybe not feeling as safe by, but we have those services available. We have an escort service that they can call 24/7. And we have that available to them, and you can call and we will walk them anywhere from downtown to any other place in downtown. So we want to have the services available to make people feel more comfortable. But we have had those conversations with things from the Padres to the Symphony to many others. But as you can see, the Symphony is doubling down with the Rady Shell and the remodel of their Symphony. The Padres are doubling down with the remodel of the Gallagher Square. And here you are with the foundation and this beautiful building and everything that you do here at the Central Library. So we are so fortunate to have all of these things. And then the city, with their cultural plan, is planning even more things in downtown and all around downtown. And we are planning more things, from farmers market to cultural activities to Fifth Avenue, and trying to activate outdoor public spaces to give people even more things to do. So I'd say go, and then hopefully over the course of the next several months, even more go, as we continue to do more things to make it safer, cleaner, and even more vibrant in the public spaces around downtown.
I agree with the go part. I mean, there is just, once you get down here and the activities, like you're saying, the new cultural plan, I think, is going to be a game changer. And then you see so much investment happening. Obviously, what's happening with the tech, I guess it's a tech center now at Horton Plaza, redoing the Lyceum Theater spaces, conversations around changing the city administration building and revising Civic Plaza. I mean, people are investing. Companies, and these, what it says to me is, companies with a significant amount of investment are going to risk that carefully, and they see an opportunity here in downtown San Diego. So I hope that residents would see that opportunity as well. Responding to some of the issues that are challenges, not just downtown, but the city writ large, but certainly what we feel downtown. Some policies have been either suggested, and most recently, a couple of them have been voted on and are acted on. How does the downtown partnership sort of share a relationship with those policies? And I think also from both a short-term and a long-term, we're doing the encampment ban, right? So the city has decided that this is a direction it is going to go in. How do you see that working sort of both as a short-term as well as a long-term opportunity to keep unhoused people safe and healthy, as well as keeping our downtown corridors clean and safe as well?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So at the Downtown San Diego Partnership, we also have a big membership base. So we have more than 350 companies that are members of the partnership. So those range from nonprofits to startups to small companies to large companies and everything in between. And we've heard from many of them that safety is a major factor. The school kids to get to school, disabled people to use the sidewalks. And so we wanted to have a strike a balance to make sure that people could do those things, and that our unhoused residents, because they are residents of San Diego and of downtown, were getting the services they needed. And the police reports that we receive every day were showing us that the people that were in the tent encampments were really victims. They were victims every single day and weren't getting the services they need. So we were supportive of that the tent encampment ordinance, and what we would, and where the people are going, they're getting services. And there's much more outreach happening. So the outreach to the people, our residents, our unhoused residents in the tent encampments, we have 18 full-time people that work at the Downtown Partnership in our unhoused care teams that go out and work with these people every single day to get them the services they need in the ways that they need them. We meet them where they are and get them into the services that they need. And we are getting some more compliance now that they understand that they really can't stay out in the street. And that has been helpful to actually move whole communities, because they do create communities of safety. And this has allowed us, this new safe camp sites have allowed us to move whole communities to those sites, which has been very helpful. We didn't have that tool in the past. And so that has allowed our teams to work with whole I will call them communities or families. They refer to themselves that way sometimes, and get them stabilized and get them into services. So that has been helpful. And we do hear from some of the advocates and some of the unhoused advocates that is not enough, and that we need more types of services and facilities for people to go to. What has been heartening to me is that the city and county seem to be working very well together, which you don't see in all municipalities. I serve on the International Downtown Association, municipalities. So, well, we have ways to go.
Sure.
And it is definitely something that is not unique to San Diego. This very big mental health, drug problem, economic problem, housing problem, very complex issue. I some real hope that we are making progress.
One particular specific reason can kind of, and that's something that we don't see just as in downtown. We don't see some of those coordinated efforts happen, and it's very easy, I think, to draw a conclusion as to what the problem is and the hard and fast line in the sand as to what the solution should be. So it's wonderful to hear you talk about some of that coordination. Are there some of the other players? You talk a little bit about law enforcement, how the police are working with you. Do we bring in, when you talk about the community, the county, I assume you mean things like Health and Human Services, those kinds of things?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, this is, and I like how you said solutions, because it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
It's complicated and it's a lot of different players. So yes, police are one part of it, but nonprofits, I mean, there's so many different nonprofits that work at this every single day, from Path to Father Joe's to Rachel's House. And I mean, dozens and dozens of them. And then there's foundations that put money behind. So there's so many different layers to this working on it. Not just our unhoused care team, but many, many unhoused care teams that are out there working on the streets. There's medical teams from the county, but also from the hospitals that are down there working, because there's economic reasons why it's so much better to work with the people and try to get them the care that they need. And also there's shallow subsidies happening both at the county and at serving seniors, where you can try to give them a small amount of money for maybe 6 months, and so that they never even fall into homelessness.
Right.
And if you can divert people, that's even a better use of money, so that they never even have those issues.
Yeah.
So I like how you said solutions. And I also like how you said, well, I don't want people to feel like they're on an island, not the library, not UCSD, Park and Margaret, no one. And that's the fabric that we're trying to lay along Park Boulevard, but also all over East Village and all over all of downtown. We want people to feel connected. We want people to feel like they're part of a neighborhood and part of a community, and you're not by yourself.
Right.
You are connected to one another, and you're connected to the services, and not just for unhoused people, but people in all of these different buildings. You are part of something bigger.
Yeah.
And hopefully you're going to start feeling that more and more.
I like to think of cities as sort of an ecosystem, right? They're their own organism, like you're saying. Everything is sort of connected and working in conjunction with and for and on behalf of, everyone else. Ecosystems evolve, organisms evolve. In what ways have you seen sort of the evolution of our downtown, and in sort of some really positive ways with some of the development stuff that's been happening?
Yeah. I mean, you're sort of prescient, because we're on the cutting edge of being a central connectivity district. So for a long time, people refer to downtowns as central business districts, but they're central connectivity districts now. And the ones that will thrive and the ones that will sort of be seen as the future of where cities are going will be central connectivity districts. So what does that mean? Connecting people to one another. So, if people work from home more, or there's hybrid schedules, that's okay. Because how are we going to set up cities to support that kind of work environment? Sure. So some people will still work in offices 5 days a week, but not everyone will. So how do we set up our city administration complex differently? How do we set up Horton Plaza? How do we set up IQHQ? How do we set up the public realm to support all of that? And then how do we convert some of the older business offices to support that? Is that converting them to residentials, converting some of them to more co-working spaces? So we're already thinking about that in San Diego. Not every city's already thinking about that. So, and we have the best opportunity to do that because we have this amazing weather.
I know.
12 months of the year. So we can do this here. And you're going to start seeing this everywhere.
I love the idea of starting to look at this as a central connectivity district. How would you, from your perspective, sort of view a well-resourced, functioning library as being a major part of that connectivity? How do you see the library playing a role in that?
I mean, this central library's already kind of doing that, where some are, I'll say, more in the past. I mean, a good example, I was here for a retreat for the Regional Task Force on Homelessness. I serve on their board. We had a retreat here maybe a month ago. And while I was at that retreat, which was on the first floor, I went to the bookshop, which is a very cool, hip bookshop. And then I came up to the third floor just because I wanted to check it out. And then I saw that you had 3D printers in this other room. And then I saw you had a workshop going on for, I think it was knitting or something else on this other floor. And then you go around the corner and you have an actual high school happening with E3 Civic High. And then you have art galleries, and then you have the rare book room. I mean, and that's just what I saw in an hour roaming. So you have the books, which are amazing, but you also have the really robust online presence. And then you have other things happening for the community. You're serving the community with your auditorium, with your other meeting spaces. You have the other lock-off rooms. You have the computers. So you're serving it more like a community center and a library and a bookshop and I know that's great. And I don't know what else you're planning, but I can't wait to find out.
Well, I love walking around this building and meeting people who are not downtown residents. And, one of the things that I always say is, why are you here? What are you doing? This is really, and they're so eager to talk to you about, again, these ands that sometimes pop up new to any of us, met people here that's behind us here. You can research all your genealogy and you can get on to Ancestry and all of that stuff for free. And people have connected with, relatives from around the world, using the resources here. Speaking of connecting, we talked a little bit about Park Boulevard. Civic leaders like Dr. Mary Walshock, is a personal and professional friend of both of ours, the visionary behind UCSD's new Park and Market, which, as we were talking about beforehand, is just a great addition to downtown. She told me at one point a couple of years ago that we're on the verge of a really, really amazing opportunity to turn Park Boulevard into this sort of thought leadership, cultural corridor. You've got the Balboa Park at one end, you've got the library at the other, you've got educational institution at City College and San Diego High School and Roosevelt Middle School and E3, like you've mentioned here. You've got Park and Market, this kind of thing. That's really great. Oh, and now we've got the World Design Center, and some of the projects that are designed there are also going to highlight this corridor. That's great to say that. And it's great to maybe again highlight a couple of the anchoring institutions that are there. What is it really going to take to see that vision come to fruition?
And there's a lot of grassroots things happening. So I think it's going to take both. I think it's going to take a grassroots effort, which you're seeing with the Park to Paseo group with Pete Garcia and Beth Calendar and all of the wonderful architects working sort of grassroots, but now sort of becoming more institutionalized with the support of the World Design Capital and the Port of San Diego. And then you see UCSD Extension and Park and Market getting really involved. And then, as you mentioned, City College and Urban Discovery Academy and all of the anchor institutions. And we have decided that we at the Downtown San Diego Partnership are going to do all the maintenance for all of those things as the installations go in. Someone has to maintain, as you know, in your 36 branches, soon to be 37, you can't just build things and then not maintain them. So we will be doing the maintenance on all of these things as the installations go in. But it takes that. So it takes the ideas, it takes implementation, it takes the maintenance, and it's a alpha omega. You can't just, you have to have it all. So grassroots, but then institutional, money, and then the buy-in from and the excitement from everybody that's going to use it. And we think about things like operationalizing it, so lighting and safety and all of those things too. So it's everything in between. And I'm so glad that there's visionaries that are kind of thinking the 30,000 foot level. And then that there's operational people that are like, okay, now great, but let's
how do we activate all of this?
Exactly. So it takes both.
I'm excited for World Design Capital.
Oh,
we had a meeting here a couple of weeks ago with the Paseo Park to Paseo team. Rob Quigley and Catherine Hallahan are going to be a part of that. We met with some members of the Kumeyaay Indian band that's going to be a part of that as well. We're going to, really, I'm looking forward to rediscovering through the library and the library's participation in World Design Capital, rediscovering what this area, is historically, what it was, this kind of just making a civic connection, this kind of thing. You mentioned that you are a member of a few different task forces and regional and national boards and even international boards. As you travel around and meet with other civic leaders, are you seeing some, I love hearing you say that what we're doing is cutting edge and leading the way. Are you seeing some other sort of best practices, things, ideas that we should be looking at and maybe adopting here in downtown San Diego?
Yeah, I mean, a good example that you just brought up with the Kumeyaay is in Vancouver. Our International Downtown Association had our international conference there 2 years ago, and they are so wonderful about celebrating the First Peoples. So they're native people in Vancouver. Everyone knows the story of their origin stories, and they celebrate it through art and through and came here to take him around downtown. The gentleman that was the selector and the other gentleman that was supposed to go with me, Mark Caverty, had COVID that day. So it was just me. And when I got in the car with him, I was briefed on every project. I knew I was going to talk about. He only wanted to talk about the First People of downtown San Diego. And it was striking to me because that's not what I was briefed on. Right. And I'm glad that happened. And I'm glad that that's what he wanted to talk about. But it shows you that is so important to the international dialogue and not always what we think about maybe here. And so what you're going to be doing here on your block and with this project is exactly what World Design Capital is meant to do.
This is going to be it's going to be a great exhibit. It's going to be a great 2024.
Exactly.
So 2023, this month, we are celebrating 10 years that this building opened. And of course, the Herculean effort led by Jim Daw and Judith Harris and Mel Katz and Katie Sullivan and multiple mayoral administrations, multiple iterations of our city council, private money, public money. It feels like the 10 years has gone by in a blink. But a lot has happened surrounding this area here in that 10 years. As the head of Downtown San Diego Partnership, what was San Diego like prior to the library? And now, sort of how has this institution, we've talked a little bit about it, connecting and stuff, but seeing this maybe encourage other development or other investments in downtown.
Yeah. Those names you just brought up just all,
I know.
bring to my heart, especially Jim Dodd.
Yeah.
But, all really passionate about downtown and members of the partnership. And we just were at the Kiwanis. I just was at the Kiwanis, and I was researching a little bit about them, and they had given a big gift at the time too. So it was just really interesting to see how many people had got together.
Yeah.
And I was working for the city council in 2000 to 2008 at that time. And just, how important this project was to the city during those years. And it's funny because it did go by in a flash, but also I can't imagine the library not being here.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's only been 10 years, because even some of our case studies, when we show how development has changed in San Diego, we show this part of East Village in particular, and just how it really was a lot of warehouses, some artists, but not much as far as development, and just the radical change since the library has been built, and the ballpark and everything else really as a result of the library, and you sort of being the first kind of pioneers in this area, and then just everything coming up around it. And it is a testament to the building and Rob Quigley and the foundation and everybody that believed in it. And it's very different than some areas, because it wasn't a story of gentrification, and it wasn't a negative story, because there wasn't a residential community here already. So it was a happy story of what can be done to develop a whole area that really wasn't developed. I
love those stories when it's an arts and culture project or a nonprofit project, a humanities project, something like a library that really, is the catalytic mover for change. Not just, it reminds us it's not just mixed use residential retail, right? You can bring about change, using these really unique opportunities and unique projects. We're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. How can we help you? How can the citizens of San Diego help the Downtown San Diego Partnership in the work that it does?
I mean, telling the story of how amazing this library is, and all the resources that you have here, and that it is easy to park. You validate parking for 2 hours and walk around and come enjoy this library, but also enjoy the neighborhood around the library. Yeah. And that there is a vibrant community, and Kali, the restaurant's right around the corner, and there's so many coffee shops and places to linger and stroll, and it is a very walkable community. And if you don't want to drive, you can take the trolley very easily to get to this library. And we believe in the mobility plan for downtown, and you really don't need a car to live in downtown. Yeah. And we had some pretty exciting announcements recently about the retail that's going to be in Horton Plaza. So we're getting a Sprouts, we're getting a Sweet Greens, and many other things, and more announcements to come in the next couple of weeks. So it's growing up. Yeah. We're getting more and more interesting restaurants and retail establishments. And if your patrons who love the library and love arts and culture can tell that story to other people, especially San Diegans that might not have been downtown since the pandemic, and they can tell them it's a great place to be and walk around, that would help every San Diegan.
I love telling our story here. Again, like I said at the beginning, one of my goals is to convert the no-goes into goes, and come on down and participate in everything downtown has to offer. So as we get ready to wrap up here, you'd already mentioned this. The library, especially lately, is being known for, connection to digital accessibility, technology, e-resources, arts and culture engagement, economic development, workforce development, so on and so forth. At the heart of all of this remains books. And I know that you are a voracious reader. And before we let you go, I'm hoping that you could tell us maybe a couple of books that have helped shape the work that you do, or if you have any reading recommendations for us.
Sure. I mean, if you want to get into sort of urban books and about downtowns and why an urban center is so important for a whole region, and why they can really be a heart heart of a city, I would recommend Strong Towns, which you have on display, but also Happy Towns, Bowling Alone by Robert Putnam. And it's kind of about, you used to have these social groups that Americans in particular were part of. And now we don't have those groups anymore. So people are sort of like bowling alone.
Oh, yeah, certainly. Like you had your bowling league, you had your,
things,
certainly.
And people aren't engaging in those anymore. So
Right.
it's like, how do we bring that back to Americans, and particularly men don't have those groups as much anymore. And then I tend to like Barbara Kingsolver books for myself. She had an interesting one, a Mineral Miracle, which was actually based on her own story. It was a nonfiction. She went to live on her farm with her 2 teenagers and her husband for a year to see if they could live a sustainable life.
Sure.
It was very hard, difficult to
Yeah.
get everything that they needed.
Yeah.
And so it was just interesting. Could we do that?
Yeah.
Could we actually do that as typical Americans?
Yeah.
And so those were really interesting books. And another book that struck me recently was American Dirt.
Yeah.
And it's just an interesting story to put yourself in maybe a migrant's footprint and see how that feels to you.
Well,
so
that's great.
Yeah, interesting.
Thank you.
I read a lot.
Yeah.
And I always have. And now I am doing some more audio books because I like to walk and read.
Yeah.
And so.
That's fantastic. Betsy Brennan, thank you so much for spending the time with us. I hope our audience checks out some of those books, and please do check into the Downtown San Diego Partnership. And I would not be able to let this go without saying, go downtown, come and join us. This has been a wonderful conversation. I'm really glad that you were able to join us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.